For 9 decades, the legendary Apollo Theater in Harlem has helped shape American culture. The theater has launched the careers of numerous icons like James Brown and Aretha Franklin. That's just to name a couple. Also has served as a center of innovation. Today, the Apollo Theater is a respected nonprofit presenting concerts, performances, film screenings, and so much more. This year, it became the first institution ever to be honored by the Kennedy Center. We sat down with some people who can speak on the significance of this theater and this award. If the walls of the Apollo Theater could talk, they would tell a story so rich in American culture. Its iconic red marquee can be seen from up and down its block in Harlem.
These are people who have performed here over and over again from the 1940s and 1950s.
James Brown. Historian Billy Mitchell is known as Mr. Apollo and knows the theater better than most.
When Mr. Schiffman, who let me run there and introduced me to the Temptations, I thought I was going to melt.
Ladies and gentlemen, please meet the world-renowned Temptations.
He started working here at 15 years old, running errands for some of Motown's biggest acts.
When you walk into the main auditorium of the Apollo Theater, there's something that physically happens to you.
He's been giving theater tours since 1992. Who had the best crowd control?
Oh, man. The one that could have the audience eating out of their hands was James Brown.
Get past the people, get past the hip man.
The theater says James Brown may have started his career at Amateur Night at the Apollo, its talent competition nearly as old as the Apollo itself, along with countless greats like Ella Fitzgerald, Lauryn Hill, and Jasmine Sullivan.
When I see Jesus.
Legendary artist Leslie Uggams began performing here as a child in 1952.
What the world needs now is love.
This was where we came to see all these incredible artists perform on that stage, from the Louis Armstrongs to the James Brown. And so for me, this was my playground, starting at 9 years old.
You performed here from 9 till about 15, 16.
16,
right?
Yes.
What was that like?
The Schiffmans, who ran this theater, had a radio show, a contest, and I kept winning every week. This contest. And so finally, they said, you know, we're going to put an act together for you. We want you to play the Apollo.
But the 40s and 50s were a contentious time in America.
When I was starting here, there was a department store that you couldn't go into because you were black. There was a famous restaurant that you couldn't go into because you were black.
During an era of segregation, many black entertainers could appear only at the Apollo when they came back to New York.
And so I had seen the changes, and my career was changing, and my life had started here. And so I still carry that with me. And people all over the world, when you mention the Apollo, oh my God, they just go crazy.
The Apollo Theater has been a catalyst for social and civic advocacy, from protests to presidential campaigns. But as more venues became integrated, the Apollo Theater struggled financially and closed its doors more than once. It's been established as a nonprofit since 1992.
It's marked as a historical landmark now. How does that play a role in what the longevity could be for the Apollo Theater?
As a nonprofit, you know, it is an opportunity to create another level of, you know, sustainability. Because the Apollo belongs to the people of Harlem, to the people in New York.
Michelle Ebanks is the theater's president and CEO.
There's a promise that's being made for continued service, and we are excited to take on this challenge.
The 2000s launched the Apollo Theater Walk of Fame, honoring the legendary figures behind its success on 125th Street in New York.
We started recognizing those that made a contribution to the history of the Apollo Theater. And the first name that was inducted into the ground was Quincy Jones. So since then, we've had Babyface, you know, which we just inducted, Mary J. Blige, or the Motown acts, Aretha Franklin, you know, all these people, their names were inducted into our Walk of Fame right under the marquee of the Apollo Theater.
So there's still some room.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. One day it'll be Nate Burleson.
The Apollo Theater added another achievement to its long list of accolades, a Kennedy Center honor.
As the Apollo becomes the first institution to receive a Kennedy Center honor.
Celebrating their contributions to the arts as an iconic American institution. All right, last question, and I'll just let you finish this sentence. The Apollo Theater is...
Magic. It's the Oscar of theaters as far as I'm concerned. This is the Oscar.
I have to say thank you to the Apollo Theater, to Billy Mitchell, of course, Leslie Uggams, and Michelle Ebanks. Yeah. They were awesome and inviting. Apollo is celebrating its 90th anniversary. Yeah. And there are renovations to come. They're not going to change it, but they do want to upgrade it and make it more appealing.
But Michelle Ebanks is the right person for the job. She's such a powerhouse, so I love that she's in that position. Looking at Leslie Uggams, who's 81 years old.
Oh, she's great.
Another good example of Black Don't Crack. And it's so important that, and so appropriate is what I mean, that the Apollo would be the first institution to be honored by the Kennedy Center. Yep. Leslie Uggams said it right, magic.
Yeah.
You walk in that building and you do feel something every time you go.
And there is a feeling now that that magic will always be here because of its structure.
Yeah, and it is a safe haven of
it.
performance and has been and still will be for people of color. But let's not get it twisted.
Yeah.
All races, all cultures have always wanted to grace that stage because of what it means.
And
to
all
be
are
on.
welcome there.
That's right.
All
That's
are
right.
welcome.
All right. You can watch the 47th Annual Kennedy Center Honors this Sunday at 8:30 p.m., 7:30 Central, right here on CBS, of course, and streaming on Paramount Plus.